Shalom. I'm speaking only for myself. I'm a citizen of the 9th Congressional District in Illinois, and I have very serious questions about our current Congresswoman who's running for re-election, Jan Schakowski, who claims to be a supporter of Israel. So here are my questions. Now, it's true that her voting record has been pretty good about Israel, but that's not the key thing, because Israel is facing a very difficult challenge in the world, and I'm very scared about having Schakowski represent our district in the U.S. Congress, and here's why. Well, first of all, Helen Thomas. She had Helen Thomas at a major fundraiser just a couple of weeks before Helen Thomas was openly anti-Israel and said all those Jews should get back to Poland. And everybody, even I, knew about Helen Thomas's history. Who in Washington couldn't know about Helen Thomas's history? So why would Schakowski have her at a big fundraiser if she purports to be pro-Israel? Second of all, and far more serious, is Jan Schakowski is one of J Street's biggest supporters. J Street pretends to be pro-Israel and pro-peace, but they've been scolded by Ambassador Oren. They've taken positions at odds with virtually every Jewish organization. They're not a member of the Council of Presidents of major Jewish organizations, and I heard that they'll never be because they're so far out there and viewed as anti-Israel. They basically embraced the Goldstone Report, which is a vicious anti-Israel diatribe. So why is she their biggest congressional supporter? It's an extreme far leftist organization. Third, Alan Dershowitz, who is no conservative, he's never endorsed a Republican before, has endorsed her opponent, Joel Pollak, who's a Salomon Schechter graduate, Harvard lawyer, who's got complete bona fides about Israel. And that's very important to remember. I'll just tell you my own personal interaction. I went to lobby in Washington, went to Schakowski's office. She was too busy to see us. I was with another Skokie rabbi. Okay, I understand they got busy committee meetings. So they sent out their foreign policy expert, this 24-year-old, and this was before the Iran sanctions bill, but everybody in the world knew how important it was to try and halt Iran. And so we asked her if Congresswoman Schakowski was going to endorse this year's bill on Iran sanctions, since she was a co-sponsor the year before. And what this aide said to us was she wasn't sure yet, because President Obama, even though when he was Senator Obama, he was a co-sponsor in the Senate of the Iran sanctions bill. Now that he was president, he wasn't sure what he was going to do, and so she wasn't sure, because she wanted to stay on his good side, basically was the gist of it. She couldn't decide whether to support Iranian sanctions. Now, she eventually did, only because of a lot of arm twisting, I'm told. But what kind of position is that? Then I'll just tell you in her own words. Here, she's interviewed in Skokie paper, September 16th issue, and on the issue of the best way to deal with Iran, here's what she says. We must act immediately and employ a full range of diplomatic and economic tools. But her opponent says we must make clear that we will use a military option if necessary. She wouldn't say that. I'm not going to vote for anybody who would not consider a military option about Iran. And then, what concessions should U.S. support from Israel and Palestine to ensure lasting peace? Here's what she said. Both sides must strive to make reasonable solutions on issues like Jerusalem, borders, and refugees. Refugees, that's code for letting millions of Arabs who never stepped foot in Israel move to Israel and make Israel not a Jewish country anymore. That is a Palestinian position 100%. How could you vote for somebody who says that Israel has to make concessions on refugees? And here's what her opponent says, Joe Pollak. We should not press Israel to make any additional concessions. Israel has made many painful concessions over the past 2 decades for little in return. We ought to press the Palestinian leadership to fulfill its obligations. All right, so think about this. You got Helen Thomas. You got her indecisiveness about whether to vote for Iranian sanctions one year, even though she co-sponsored it the year before because she was a lapdog for President Obama. You have the Dershowitz, who's a pretty big liberal, endorsing her Republican opponent, first Republican he ever endorsed. Her saying here that Israel should make concessions on refugees. Her refusal to say that we should use military option, have military as an option about Iran. I mean, really, if Jan Schakowski wants to pretend to be pro-Israel, and I saw an editorial in a Skokie paper that said her opponent's saying that she's not pro-Israel, that's a bunch of malarkey. Well, these are real questions. So I think anybody who seriously cares about Israel has to think very carefully about these 5 points before they vote for her.